We are working this month with a wonderful little book by Edwene Gaines, kind of the high priestess of prosperity in New Thought, called the Four Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And she puts forth a premise that this can be really easy. To be prosperous can be really easy. In fact, when you begin to really think about it, we live in an abundant universe. Would you agree? If you have a yard right now, you realize how abundant our universe is. You realize that weeds are just wanting to happen, grass is wanting to grow. All of a sudden, life is renewed itself in a very abundant way. Why? Did you have to effort that into being?
No.
Did you have to pray? No. Did you have to hold a thought, right? No. It just happens because we live in an abundant universe. So if we live in an abundant universe and we are that which thou art, we are extensions of the divine, and we're not experiencing abundance in our life, the problem is not the universe. Just saying. It may lie elsewhere. So, what if it's just easy? What if it's just easy? And when we move into that consciousness, I'm loving tithing. I have to say I've moved to a new level of appreciation and understanding. I was walking through my driveway yesterday, and there was a nice wet $5 bill. I'm sure it was crisp at one point, but it was kind of wet after the rain. Just sitting there, going, pick me, Marty. So I picked it up and I'm like, I can't wait to get my 50 cents. I got my 50 cents already, you know? It's like, that's becoming my first thought is, yes, thank you, God, here's back. Because again, as we talked about last week, it is a principle of flow. It is a principle of recognition that this infinite intelligence is our source and our supply. It is the source of our life. It is the source of our breath. It is the source of all that is. And when we begin to understand that, then we get to do some work, because some of us have some misconceptions around prosperity. Some of us have some misconceptions about life itself. Some of us have made an agreement that life's a struggle, that it's hard, blah, 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 right? And because we're always proving ourselves right, that's the experience we get to have. So what if we just said a new agreement is have it be easy, have it be flowing, have it be overflowing? You open? You willing? So the second spiritual law that Edwene puts forth in her simple guide to unlimited abundance, simple being the key word here. Why not have it be simple? Why not have it be easy and simple? Is the law of goal setting. Now, I've heard about goal setting for a very long time, in a lot of different contexts. And so it's just an amazing thing. So we know a lot of things, and then we do some things. Have you noticed that? You probably don't do everything you know to do. If you're like me. I mean, I'm just calling it like it is. There's a lot of things I know. There's a few things that I practice. And so more and more, I'm trying to have what I know be my practice. And so this idea around goal setting is so amazing. I love this. I was first introduced to, before I was introduced to metaphysics, I was introduced to positive mental attitude. And people talked about this concept that our minds are vision-oriented. They are goal-seeking, based on goal-seeking principles. And so even today, even just today, you have already demonstrated your inherent capacity to manifest your goals. You all said at 11 o'clock, I'm going to go down to the Center for Spiritual Living, and I'm going to have a joyous I don't know what you decide. You may have just come to have a bad time. I don't know about that part. But you did say I will be here. And look, congratulations. Here you are, right? You see, we do this so inherently that we sometimes forget. And yet we forget to practice it in all the areas of our lives. So I love the time in which we live. You know, we mentioned This next Sunday, we're going to close down the Brickyard offices. But we won't close the office because we live in a digital world. So we'll still have phone systems and we'll still be email. We just won't have the physical location, but the office hasn't stopped. That wasn't really possible not too many years ago, right? And so now everybody lives everywhere all the time. We just live in a different time. So our conceptions are different. Many of us have a device, either in our car or on our phone, called a GPS. Anybody have one? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, a GPS is the annoying little voice that lives inside your car that tells you to turn left even when you don't want to, right? It is this wonderful technology. It's really quite remarkable that it knows where you are all of the time. Kind of scary, kind of big brothery, but it's also kind of wonderful. And so when you have a GPS system, it says, here's where you are, here's where you want to get to, and you plug that in. And when you plug that in, then it gives you directions to get there. Quite remarkable if you think about it, right? However, you have to know where you want to get to. I know. Oh, I'll just go anywhere. I'll just let the universe guide me. It does not work. She will be very annoyed with you if you tell her that. You must, right? And yet, we live and have lived always inside a global, universal system that says what you give your attention to, you will be supported in creating. Now, here's the great news, because here's where most people, myself included, get confused in terms of goal setting. We want to figure out the how before we figure out the what. We say, I'd like to make $100,000 a year. But you know, ministers. And then I would tell my tale of woe if I were the old person that lived in this body, but no longer. Right? How is that possible? I don't know how that could ever happen, so I won't set the goal for myself. Right? So go to your GPS and say, I'd like to go to, I don't know, where do we want to go? Bountiful. That's a good name. I just like that name. I want to go to Bountiful. This is actually, there's a metaphor. I want to go to Bountiful. But I can't set that goal because I don't know how to get there. Right? That doesn't make any sense. And yet perfectly sane people will do the same thing with their lives. I'd like to do this, but I don't know how I could ever do that. You don't have to know. You do have to know what. Because we live in a universe which will provide the answers for us to create what we want. And yet we limit it because we don't know the how that will come about. Now, some of you know that a number of months ago, in a moment of mental instability, I declared to this august group that I would run a half marathon by the end of May. Well, I missed the goal because it doesn't happen until June 1. But on June 1 in Sun Valley, I will run, and when I say run, I mean walk, a half marathon. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, easy for you. You just have to clap, right? And I haven't done it yet, so I would hold the applause until, June 2nd. But now, it's an interesting thing when you set a goal for yourself, especially when it's out a ways, because then it's still easy, right? That was such a great goal 8 months ago. Fabulous goal. I was sitting in the comfort of my apartment, watching TV, going, yeah, rock and goal. Yesterday at mile 9, I was hating you people. Right? Because that's what we do, right? When we don't like the choices we've made for ourselves, we may blame it on somebody else. Maybe you don't. Right? And yet what I know is through that process, I had the wisdom and the clarity and the insight to realize that I was not going to go from walking a block wheezing to running 13.1 miles without something else happening in between, right? There needed to be some interim steps in that. And so I began a process, got on that treadmill, and and I remember so well when the first time I hit my first 5 mile. It's like, yeah, that's rocking. Now, what's interesting to me, that was a big deal back then, but that's my new norm. That's my short run. Oh, God, I only have to do 5 miles today. Hallelujah. Finding how things change, right, as your mind expands. So when we do this, in fact, I was out on the trail not too long ago, ran into a friend of mine who's jogging along, and stopped for a minute. She said, just getting ready for the half marathon. I said, me too, isn't that great? She said, yeah, I'm just going to run it, I'm just going to walk it. I said, I'm just going to walk, crawl it. I'm hoping it's more walking than crawling, but, whatever. Because I know people look at me and go, oh, there's a runner. Look at him. Yeah, right? He's like, that guy could be a bowling ball. What is the deal? He should roll his way there. So, there was some challenges in this whole process, right? To get from where I was to where I want to be. You see, sometimes in metaphysics, we like to take this approach that I'm just going to declare the thing and then I'll just ohm it into being. Right? I'm doing my work. And yet, it turns out there's action that has to follow setting the goal. So here's what we need to know. Goals always are determined by materiality, right? They're always determined by form. The way we know we have a goal is that it's bound by time and space. By the end of May, I will run 13.1 miles. That gets real. When I'm saying someday I'd like to, that's a wish. Those are lovely. Wishes are lovely things to have. Setting an intention says I'd like to be a more fit person. That's a lovely intention. But it gets real when you put a goal to it. By this date, I will do this thing. Or by this date, I will create this thing. Or it's got to get into the realm of form. Now, we have a model for this, in case you haven't looked recently. If you go to your Bible, you might get your GPS and ask, where do I find my Bible? But if you can find it, dust it off, open it up, and page 1, it begins to explain the process. That the very first thing the divine did was moved into form. You see, right? Let there be light. And there was this experience of light. And that was cool and created the heavens and the earth. You see, sometimes we'd like to do this spiritual thing. Well, I'm spiritual. I don't do that material thing. Really? Then let me just run over you with my car and let's see how attached you are to your materiality, right? I mean, come on. We are spiritual beings, in essence, living in material form. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to experience the desires of our heart in form. The mistake might be when we think that the change, the form, is going to create the experience. You see, we want to bring forth our greater good, but we don't want to delay our joy and abundance in waiting for the form to come forward. You see, one of the things I've had to learn in running this long distance is that if I wait for that to be the moment, all of it leading up to that sucks. And sometimes it does, but right? And so it's like, oh, I get to be in this process of growth and evolution. There's so many things that I've learned in this process about, about conditioning, about distancing, about mindset, all of the things that I never would have known had I not set the goal and moved into action. So too, if you set a financial goal for yourself and you say, I want to create this much income, or I want to have this experience in life, then what you don't know now is how you're going to learn it. Just like the GPS will tell you how to get there, by setting the goal and moving towards it, the universe then will provide the resources necessary for your growth and evolution. How cool is that? The whole universe is at your disposal, just waiting for you to give it direction. I like that. So it's important for us to recognize that when we are in this process, that goals are bound by time and space, by materiality. Sometimes people will say, well, I've set a goal and I want to be more loving. I said, well, that's loving. That's lovely. I'm glad. However, it's not a goal. That's just a choice, right? So if you want to be more loving, be more loving. Boom, done. Check, next, right? It's just a choice. But when we say, I want to do or create or manifest or something, now we're moving into a different action. Now I'm hoping that you will be more loving in the process. I'm not saying don't be loving. I'm just saying let's not confuse what we're doing. That's why I always do these crazy things. Turns out I'm reading through my little book by Edwina Gage, and she says, don't share your goals with others. It was like, oh yeah, where were you 8 months ago? Right? You couldn't tell me that then? Before I had to say, to 200 or so of my closest friends, hey, I'm going to run it. But I also know that had I not said it to a whole lot of people, it would have been very easy to go, what goal? What marathon? I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. Right? So a while back, a group of us sat down together. We've done this on a few occasions to look at who we want to be as Center for Spiritual Living. And we went through a wonderful process, and we sat down and wrote a vision statement and said, we are a community where everyone is embraced as a unique and joyful expression of the divine. Isn't that lovely? And that is the mindset, that is the vision of who we are. And then we said, but we have to move that to what do we do in the world? And so we looked at consistently excellent celebration services and exceptional spiritual learning opportunities for adults and young people and families. A variety of ways to engage in individual and communal spiritual practice. A well-organized system of volunteers. A well-organized system for care through small groups. A balanced and vibrant volunteer program, a variety of fun social activities, a beautiful and functional space for celebration services, classes, activities, and special events. And we thrive financially as individuals and as community. Lovely words. And we moved into action on every one of those. And my job as spiritual leader is to keep going back to how are we doing? Are we moving the ball forward? We signed a lease on Monday for a building that has been in our lobby for about a year now. We've been looking at every time you go in and go out. Now, as you know, when you go in and out, you can look at the color scheme. That drawing looks very similar to the space we will be moving into in just a few months. Yay us, right? Because we set a goal for ourselves and we've moved forward it. I was just looking at this. It's been remarkable to watch what's happening as we have committed to a larger financial purpose. And so when I look at the per capita giving that we have today from where it was 3.5 years ago when I started, it's increased 400%. I know, yay us, right? We're not that different. As I said, it's not like Bill Gates showed up and dropped a check. It was us all doing a little bit more as we are able, and it's a fabulous and wonderful thing. It's our new norm. Just like what I realized is that when I'm looking at 13.1 miles, now my 5-mile run does not seem like any big deal, right? So we have evolved because we set tangible intention to creating that. This is the way it works. We say this all the time, you can have the life you want, but you have to figure out what you want. Sometimes we're trying to live somebody else's life. Have you ever noticed that? Maybe it's a parent, you're trying to fulfill their dream for you. That works well, doesn't it? So we get to whittle it away, and so what is the desire of my heart? The last week in this series is really all about divine purpose. What is the desire of my heart? How am I most fulfilled? And then how do I move from where I am to experiencing that? And you don't have to know how, but you do have to know what, and you have to be willing to make the commitment. When you make the commitment, then, as it is written, all manner of things come rushing forward to support you in the fulfillment of your desire and that commitment. It's cool stuff. I love this stuff. I could talk about this if I were ever given a chance. So the question is, where are you going? Where are you going? What do you want? You get out your GPS. Nothing much happens till you figure out what you want. And then, I have some bad news. You ready? I know it's all going to be all happy and light. The bad news is you may have to give up what you don't want. You say, well, that's not so bad. Really? Yes. My old story. You want me to give up my most precious and prized possession in service and sacrifice to this greater ideal? Yes. Right? This is where we get off track. So it's like, here you are driving around in your car. You've plugged in the destination onto your GPS. It begins to give you directions. But you don't follow those directions. You do it your way. Maybe you're playing Frank Sinatra. I did it my way on the stereo just to reemphasize it, right? If someone were riding with you, they might say, you're insane, right? And yet, we say, oh, Reverend Marty, I've set a new goal for myself. I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And I say, oh, great, let's talk about tithing. Oh, not doing that. No way. Maybe you want to write down your goals. No, I'm trusting the universe will provide all the insight and wisdom that I need for my fulfillment. Great. You might want to try forgiving. Oh no, that's the energy that I fuel myself off of. Revenge is my calling card. Great. Might want to look at your divine purpose. That doesn't matter, right? Okay, great. So that's a lovely goal. And, just turn the GPS off now because all it does is annoy you. If you're just going to do your own thing, just turn it off. But if you're willing to speak with the universe in such a way that says, okay, here is my intention, here is my goal, guide me, and I, as your willing and humble servant, will listen, your chances are greatly improved. Then begin to act as if you're that person. The person who accomplishes their goals, the person who is prosperous, the person who is in perfect health, the person who is that. Start doing the things that person would do. Imagine yourself in the picture already fulfilled. And that's what begins to move our energy into the world, and the world supports us in being that. Act as if. I often ask myself this question, would a wealthy person say what you just said? Probably not. Turns out maybe that's why, maybe that's Maybe that's what's going on, right? And so we begin to speak in prosperous terms. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't go buy a Mercedes if you can't have a Mercedes, if you can't afford a Mercedes today. But it don't cost nothing to go sit in them. And smell and imagine and see yourself and knowing that's who I am. Because now I know who I am. I'm just waiting for whatever else to show up. Don't be afraid to be a generous person in the world today. You see, it costs nothing to give yourself away, to be of service, to give to some cause you believe in. It costs nothing to be your larger self. Listen to your heart's desire and allow that which is seeking its emergence through you to be revealed. It would be a very cruel universe for the divine to give us a desire and not give us the way to fulfill it. I don't believe in that universe anymore. Used to. Not anymore. So figure out what you want. Put yourself in that picture. Imagine yourself there. Take action towards the fulfillment of that. And then you'll begin to notice that things happen. And you'll begin to notice that you're given new insight, new information. Turn left now. And you actually turn left now. It's so much easier, right? The whole universal positioning system, the UPS, is seeking to guide you to that destination. But you have to know the what. Next week, we'll look at forgiving and accepting our worth, our worthiness to inherit this kingdom that the Master taught us. But it's so exciting to me. I love this. What I've watched is we've done this. A while back, we had drawings on a piece of paper in a lobby. Now we have architectural drawings. In a few months, 6 weeks or so, we'll have a building that looks exactly like the idea, that looks exactly like the architecture, because we manifested that together. It just rocks my world. And we have swatches, so you know I'm happy. There's swatches out there. You can, you know. It's a gay man's dream come true, you know. Let there be swatches. Oh, God. All right, I'm going to stop talking now. So know that wherever you are in this journey, that this universal intelligence delights in its self-expression through you and uniquely as you. That you are fully loved, and fully supported in being your highest, most authentic self. Let us pray. As we simply move into that awareness of this divine presence, forever and ever seeking its highest self-expression in and through and as all creation. We open our hearts in this moment to the presence of absolute unconditional love and our minds to divine wisdom. We are sensing and feeling and knowing that there can be no separation between us and the one, but rather the one expressing through us right here and now. And so I'm knowing right here and right now that desire that calls us forward, that longing for our greater self-expression, is truly the divine seeking its recognition in the world. And so I speak the word of truth right here, right now, as I recognize that this divine presence of wholeness, fully orbed, is always available. And so we allow that wholeness to be revealed as health, as well-being, as vitality. We know that the only universal truth is that there is love, divine love seeking its self-expression. Dr. Holmes called it the self-givingness of spirit. And so we allow our hearts, our minds, our very being to be lifted up. We allow our relationships to be healed and transformed through the power of unconditional love. We willingly forgive ourselves and those who we perceived as harmed us, so that we might experience this higher state of being. We speak the word of truth this day as we realize that we are abundant beings right here and right now. For we have been born one with an abundant universe. And so we open ourselves, our minds, to that greater possibility. We declare our abundance right here and right now. How good it is to know this truth, to move with that awareness that we are fully supported in living our highest vision. How grateful I am to know this truth, how blessed I feel. And so we extend a blessing from this place. For that which we have received, we joyously give. And so we bless our brothers and sisters around the planet this day. We're simply knowing a planet at peace, a world that works for everyone. As always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of every faith, for we know there are many pathways to the divine, and we honor and celebrate them all. We bless this spiritual community, knowing that we are divinely guided, divinely prospered, as we seek to be a bright, shining light in the world. And we live with that vision, and we fulfill that mission. How grateful I am to know this truth. And so it is with a profound sense of joy and gratitude that I simply release this word into the law of mind, knowing that it is already so, accomplished in perfect timing and in divine right order. As together we say, and so it is.